exceptions. Exceptions. So we'll be talking about exceptions. In Java, earlier I talked about the garbage collector when we started the function. You don't have to manage your what? Your memory. When you create objects, you don't track it, you don't track the lifetime of an object. All those things is the work of that. The garbage collector. Now, we also have a framework, the exception framework. Now this is how it works. Sometimes in life, in real life, you don't get all that you want. Things happen. When they happen, how do you react to those situations? So those are the exceptions. Anything exception is not expected to happen. So when you say someone is exceptionally good, normally it's not what? Shatter. Exceptionally stubborn. So any exception is what? Anything what? Unexpected. Unexpected. And let's use this case for instance. On the when was the verdict? 28th August. 29th August. 29th August. 29th August, there was what? A lot of what? Security presence all over Ghana. And certain places had a lot more than other places. I'm not mentioning. So some places were having more than other places. Why? Because those places were tagged to what? Potential what? Disturbance zone or something could happen. So you need to what? Keep an eye on them. So if you suspect a portion of your code that no, this code I'm not too sure about the outcome, something might happen, then you are detecting that this portion of your code is what? A potential what? Error prone what? No, not a error prone zone. Then once you suspect that, then you must mark it. Marking it in the real life for these instances, you send a lot of what? Military men to the area. But in code, you just surround that block with what? Try catch. So once you put the block in try catch, you are telling the compiler that I'm not too sure of the outcome of what? This block of code. So just monitor it for me. In case something happens, call someone to come and do or whatever. So in exceptions, you have 5 main keywords. You have the try, throw, throws, catch, and finally. These are the 5 keywords in exceptions. So the try is when you suspect a particular part of code or a block of code to be what? You are not too sure of the outcome. Then you put it in what? A try block. So that's when you use the what? The try block. And you can nest as many try blocks as you want. When I say nest, you can have one inside the other, another one inside the other, another one inside the other. Then the next one is the throw and throws. I'll come to them. Let me move to the catch. As you suspect an area to be behaving a similar an odd way, and you monitor them, when something happens, you trigger something. So if you send a lot of military presence to a particular area and something happens, the military people, you have to what? Contain their reaction. So someone to contain, either to beat them or to just talk to them and they will sit down in peace, or any other means. That's the work of the catch. So the catch is always like the reaction to the monitor. After the monitor has observed something, then the catch will come in and take it or handle it. So usually the catch handles those exceptions that come out of the try block. Then so that's the catch. Then the finally is what are this? Those areas that we've marked as potential disturbance zone. No matter what's happening, they will eat. No matter what's happening, someone will drink. There are some things, no matter what happens, it will happen to those people. Or in your code, no matter what happens, there are some things, no matter what, whether there's an exception or not, you want this part of your code to run. Some things are independent of the what, whether there's an exception or not. So if you have a block of code in which you want it to run, no matter what happens, you put it in the finally block. The finally block. The final is a block. The try is a block. Or they are all blocks except the two up there. So the try is a block, the catch is a block, finally is also block. The try is when you suspect a code, you are not too sure of the outcome, you put in a try. Then when something happens, you give it to the catch block. Then if you have a code that you want it to run, no matter what happens, you put it in what? The final block. Then you are left with the true and the what? The truth. The true is now as you are monitoring, you set some flashpoints. So you let maybe someone dressed like a civilian person walking among the guys with some indicators or some walkie-talkie. If something happens, he will indicate what? By calling or sending some signal. And those signals will be caught by the catch block. So who throws that signal? The true throws it. I'm using true and the truth. Throws in the sense of normal English, not in this truth. So if you set monitors in the try block, and in that particular place something happened, you want to signal someone, use the word the throw, just the throw. So the throw is within the try block. The throw is always within the what? The try block. So it will send it to what? The catch, and the catch will what? Catch it. So assuming you are doing a normal routine, you are looking for an armed robber in a particular area, and there are 30 houses. Then you have spread across, and you have the catch team waiting for the one, or the catch acting as a response team. When someone finds it in room 2, you just send a signal so that you stop the search. So you don't continue with the rest of the code. So if you have thousands of code, and I say when something happens, throw this error, it means to stop the code and jump to the catch session and handle that exception. So that's the use of the throw. Then the throws also works like that, but it's not being used inside a try block. This is how it works. Sometimes, assuming the same scenario, you've chosen an area, but this time, instead of sending military people, we send what? Policemen. Okay, maybe policemen, they are still strong. We send normal security, those private security people. They don't have access to what? Guns or any weapons. They can just use those sticks, but they can't use any firearms. So those people are monitoring those areas. But something happened and they realize that they can't what? Handle it. So they will throw it up. The throws. That's where the throws comes in. So the throws will throw it up. So it's like calling for higher help. Not to the throw. Throws. The throws. I'm explaining it in real time before I bring it to the code. This normal security people, when it's above their means, they will call in the police people. The police will also come. If it's also above their means, they will call the what? The military people. If the military doesn't help, then we call the ECOWAS. If the ECOWAS doesn't help, we go to UN. If the UN doesn't, so it keep going up. So if you see the truth, it means that error has not been what? Handled. It has been passed to higher what? Level. That's the truth, the one with the S. No, the throw throws it to the catch, and the throws is like passing it to higher level. That's the throws. Okay, yes, some throw somewhere. No, it's not okay. Some throw somewhere or catch somewhere. Are you getting the concept? Yes, somewhere. It's either throws to the catch somewhere. It throws to a catch somewhere so that catch, usually the catch is the what? The thing that handle it. So they will catch it and handle those errors. So it throws it to a catch somewhere. So let's do some. I will not do any. Yes. 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 Every time. Let's do the pairing. This is how you can pair them. The pairing is that try catch. So you say try catch block. Every try must have a corresponding what? Catch. So that's one way. So you either try catch or try catch finally. So it's either try catch or try catch what? Finally. And the third pairing is what? Try and what? Finally. That one there's no catch. So there are three, is it permutation? Three permutation. Try catch finally, and try finally. And the throw must always be within the what? The throw. The try. The throw must always be within the try. And the throws always comes at the end of a method before you enter the body. You will see example of it. So I'll not do anything that much. I'll go to my student manager. The student down. Then in my constructor, I'll check. I'll use some functions of the string class. To check if the name contains a vowel. So I'll check if your name contains a vowel. Then I'll not allow you to what? To register. So that's what I want to do. So before I initialize your name to this, I want to check whether your name contains what? A vowel. So this, where I want to check the name, I'll declare that part to what? Am I recording? I'll declare that part to what? Try. So I'll say try this. But we are saying every try must have a corresponding what? Catch or catch and finally or what? Finally. You know the parents, there are three parents. I just want to catch it. And catch is like a method block. Look at the syntax. And the catch takes so this is how it is. I'm saying try this name. Then if something happens, throw it. I've not thrown it yet. I've just kept this guy in what? Potential or suspicion mode. So I'm suspecting this name. But before I do this, I'll just check. So before I set this, I'll just check if. So I'm doing the logic. If name, so the name that is coming, dot, you have some methods in what? Java. So contains, if it contains A, G, O, U, those are the alphabets, vowels, right? If it contains any of this, then I will throw an exception. Else initialize the name. So before you register, we check whether your name contains a vowel. Now here, this is where I'll do. At the moment, I'm not throwing, but the normal sequence I should have done throw what? Name not a vowel, or name being a vowel what? Exception. Name being a vowel exception. So I should have thrown new name vowel exception. New name vowel exception. If this is true, before I what? Set the name here. Now if something happens, then I'll call the catch block to maybe display something or to call something to do something. I get it. So this is the basic syntax. So if the name contains a vowel, then it will just throw some exception. Then I'll catch the what? Exception here. To appreciate this, let me just create an exception. There's this hierarchy I have to show you. There's this hierarchy I have to show you. Let me look for it and show it to you. Look at this diagram. These are classes in Java. The root of all exception is what we call throwable. Now, under the throwable, you can see you have the left side and the right side. You have the error and the what? Exception. The errors are the ones which are beyond the developer's level or the programmer's level. What do I mean by that? When the virtual machine crashes, it's not your fault. When there's a thread death, it's not your fault. When the AWT is not working, it's not your fault. Meaning when the system fails, there's no memory to run your program. It's the fault of the what? Your system. So those ones are errors. And usually programmers are not advised to go to that area. So that's why we teach exception. We don't teach trouble. But exception is coming from what? The trouble. The exceptions are the ones you can handle, and the ones that come as a result of what? Some mistakes you do in your programming. So there's the exception hierarchy. So there's the root of all of them. Then we come to the exception class. And under the exception, you have runtime exception, IO exception. Then it keeps coming to class exception, or pointer exception. So it keeps, these are all system defined what? Classes or APIs. Now you want to create our own what? Exception. In Java, you know of what? Inheritance. So if a class does something and you want it to do it, you want to have it in your, you don't want to have that feature in your application, you have to extend from that class. So I'll be extending from what? The exception class, so that I'll create my own what? Exception. So if you are creating your own exception, which we call custom exceptions, or exceptions which are not created by what? Java or the Java developers, we call them custom exceptions. That's what I want to create. So I'll create an exception class. Now to create an exception class, it's very simple. Now that we know the hierarchy, I'll just create vowel exception. And you always advise to add exception to your what? Your custom exceptions. It's not composed by, it's advised so that you know this is what? An exception what? Class. So I create a vowel exception. Then in the vowel exception, because I said it's an exception and I want it to be catch, it needs to extend the what? The exception class. So I will extend exception class. So this class will extend the exception class. And we are not being forced to implement anything. So this tells you that the exception is not an abstract class, or it does not contain any abstract method. So now that you have this, I'll just create a method public void, or that will return a string check name method. Then I'll just return your name contains a vowel. Your name contains a vowel. That's what I just want to return for this method. So your name contains what? A vowel. So when I come back here, now this is what I have to do. Now I'll comment this, and I'll just say throw. I have to create an instance of that what? Vowel exception. So throw new vowel exception. So this is how you do. I'll throw new vowel exception. Then since I'm throwing vowel exception, I need to catch what? Vowel what? Exception, not the root exception class. So here, instead of the exception, I'll catch vowel exception. So this one will catch the vowel exception. Then within the vowel exception, I have a method, and that method is doing what? Says we call the method what? Check your name. So I'll just say sys out. Then I'll use this e dot what? Check name. So I just print the message from the what? The vowel exception, if your name contains any of this vowel. So let me just create an instance of this class. Let me create a test vowel. So test vowel. Then I'll just say student DAO. Then I'll pass the name to be any of them. AGOG. I want to throw the exception, so AGOG. And then the level what? Run file. There's an exception thrown, and it's telling me that what? Your name contains what? A vowel. Let me just give a normal name which does not contain any vowel, or only consonant names. It runs successfully. It doesn't throw what? Any error. So this is how you go about what? Exceptions. So if you created our own custom exception in the user DAO, the student DAO, then we check if it contains this, you throw what? New exception. Assuming this guy doesn't want to handle this exception. This guy doesn't want to handle this exception. Then this is what you do. You just say throws exception. Let me. So that's how you use the throws keyword. That's what, look at it. Here, assuming I'm using anything of the student here, and I don't want to handle the what? The exception. I will do what? Use the what? The throws. And look at where it comes. It comes in between the normal parenthesis and before the what? The curly brace of the the method. So the throws is usually used on top of what? Methods. Or in the method signature. Now you see where the throws comes. Then here, let me emphasize on one more thing. I talked about the finally block. It's just a block. I've missed why. So finally block. This is a finally block. It will run no matter what happens. So whether there's an exception or not, it will always run. So I'll just create a J option pin dot show. It's a class. Don't worry about too much about it. I will always run. So I'll go to the test valve. I will always run. There was no error. It was still running. Let me create an error. There's an error, but it's still what? Running. So that's the finally block. Now if I don't want to handle it here, I can just remove the catch. I remove the catch. And the throw what will complain because this must be what? If I don't handle it, I must throw it. So I'll just say, let me click on it. You can see I'm checking for what? The vowel. But I'm not handling by catching it here. So I've been asked to do what? To add throws. So I'll just click add throws. So I'm not handling the error. I'm passing it higher to what? Whoever will use this. So I just add what? The throws what? Vowel exception. I'm throwing it here, but I'm not handling it here. I'm passing it up. So the throw pass it to what? The throws. Then someone will catch it somewhere. Handle it. Handler. So this one way. So it's either try catch finally, or what? Try for what? Finally. Now if you use the try finally and there's a throw block, you have to use the what? The throws. So we've seen all the avenues regarding exception handling.